The 49ers picked Mykel Williams at pick 11 yesterday. What have people been saying about it? What are they saying about it? And what grade would we give the round one pick? We'll break it all down on today's Gold Standard podcast. What is good, everybody? Welcome to today's Gold Diggers podcast on the Gold Standard and the Fans First Sports Network. I'm Rob Stats Guerrera alongside Michelle Majuk. Welcome to day 2 of the NFL draft. Michelle, you were one of the few members of the Gold Standard team that couldn't join us because you were cranking it out for NFL Network last night. So I can't wait to hear everything you have to say about the pick.
You know, we've already talked about Mykel Williams, right? Because this is who you wanted. You're super, high on him. I, on the other hand, was not on board with this pick, and I wasn't happy when they picked him. I will say the board didn't necessarily go perfectly for the 49ers, right? Like a lot of the top. You think it did?
I think in terms of if you wanted the 49ers to go defensive line, and let me just bring it up here if I can add it to the stage. There we go. There's the first round picks. I mean, other than Abdul Carter and Mason Graham, you had your pick of any defensive lineman. They were all on the board at 11.
That's true. I guess maybe I just didn't love any of them besides Kenneth Grant, who went 2 picks after the 49ers. So that was highly irritating. And I would have preferred Jalon Walker, the other Georgia edge rusher, to Mykel Williams as well. I feel like Mykel Williams just got pushed up because of his athleticism, and I hate that. I hate that so much whenever we're looking at these prospects and in drafts. It just feels like anytime a guy gets pushed up the board after a combine because they had, athletic freak ability, right? It's like, well, you already knew that because you saw it on tape. I don't know why we're counting it twice now. And then they get pushed up. Like, I just don't think the combine matters about what you do and how fast you can run or how far you can jump. And his production at Georgia was not elite in the slightest to be 11th overall. So if you're so fast and strong and quick and awesome, then why couldn't you produce in college? That's always my issue.
Okay. Those are things that you've brought up in the past, and I like that you're sticking by it. That's cool. I think it's only fair that we let the 49ers answer some of those things. They spoke last night during the first round of the draft. It was kind of weird. They were at like pick 20, I think. And all of a sudden it was like, yeah, Lynch and Shanahan are going to have their press conference. It was like, oh, damn. All right. Well, I guess we're not trading back into round one because I don't know who the hell's manning the phones. But let's listen to Kyle Shanahan talk about the sacks because that was brought up that he has 14 career sacks in college. Here was Shanahan's response last night.
14. All right. How many pressures? What's his pressure rate? But that all stuff goes into play, So it's if someone, if you see something that's alarming and there are a bunch of stats that match it, it all stacks up. When you watch the tape and those questions don't come up. If someone brings it to your attention and it's something alarming, I guarantee someone did tell me that. But that doesn't even register that much because that's not what I see. I see a guy that's really hard to block in the run game and the pass game, hard to block for tackles, hard to block for guards. And I think it's really cool when you think about college football now. I mean, half these guys coming out, I say the majority almost seem 24, 25. And we got a 20-year-old who looks like a man on tape. But to look like a man on tape as a 20-year-old when you're going against 25-year-olds, I think is a big difference. And I'm excited to see him in the NFL 5 years from now when he'll only be 25.
Okay, so there's a couple different things there. You're rolling your eyes.
Can I speak first? I'm so irritated by Shanahan. I didn't hear him say it like that. Well, what's his pressure rate? He knew she didn't have it, and that's why he asked. He didn't even have it. Don't ask if you don't have it because his pressure rate sucks. So I'll tell you that.
Okay. You get into that?
Yeah, I can. So I looked at last year's pressure rate. He had 5 sacks. That was the career high, right? 11.5 pressure rate win percent. That ranked 75th among 200 Power 5 players. So yeah, it's above average, sure, but it's still not good. This was among Power 5 players with 200 plus pass rush snaps. So you're talking about the guy who went 11th overall, ranking 75th among Power 5 players, among 200 of them. To compare, Abdul Carter's pressure percent was 19.1, so a good 8% higher. And then looking at his win rate when he is during his pass rush snaps, 81st among 200 players. To compare, Abdul Carter was at 24% win rate percent. So more than double Mykel Williams. So just Shanahan bothers me so bad. Why ask that when you don't even know the answer? You're acting like that's why you picked him. Like you are so you looked at this. No, he was not good across the board as a pass rusher. I don't know what to tell you.
I think his point was maybe, we look at other stuff besides sacks, which I get, but also, yeah, it did come across.
You don't know the answer, then don't ask it like that. He acted like he knew the answer, and he clearly didn't, because his pressure percent wasn't impressive at all.
This just in, Kyle Shanahan can be smug at times. I don't think that anyone would say that his pass rushing is his best attribute. Clearly, they like him because he can set the edge and he can control the run game. That is what they are going to sell you, and they are hopeful that the other stuff will come along. Like Kyle mentioned how young he is, Michelle. He couldn't even legally open a beer to celebrate getting picked by the 49ers because he won't be 21 until June. Just for perspective, Ricky Pearsall got drafted in the first round last year. He was 24 years old. Mykel Williams will be 24 years old at the end of his rookie contract. That's how young this kid is. He's the 8th youngest player in the entire draft.
I mean, young is great, and the ability to be great, sure. It's just so hard to take a guy at number 11 overall that already hasn't shown you what he can be, right? Right now, they're taking him just as hope. It's a lottery ticket at this point, and draft picks are already lottery tickets. So I feel like they're like doubling down on the risk, and this is not the right roster right now to be making this risky of a pick. That's just my opinion. He could hit, he could be great. I've been wrong plenty of times before. It was not the pick I wanted. Now they need defensive line help, so he's going to get every chance possible to showcase what he can do. It's just, is he going to be ready in year one with how young he is and how limited a production he had at Georgia? Also, he had limited snaps at Georgia too. So it's like, is his body ready to take on more snaps for a full 17-game season?
They asked John Lynch the obvious question last night. Hey, like, what sold you on Mykel Williams? I got to tell you, he could have done a better job with this answer.
The film is very impressive. I mean, Mykel's a big, good-looking kid in every way. He's big, he's tall, he's long. He's a great athlete. He's tough. He's smart. He's versatile. He can play outside. He can play inside. He does all those things. I think the toughness, he played through an ankle injury last year and missed 2 games. But, high ankle sprains can be a tough deal. And to only miss 2 games and play as well as he did, came through here on a 30 visit and really got a feel for the kid. And I just think all of that led us to this guy as a Niner. He fits who we are, our culture, and we pounced when he was there.
I don't love, what do you like about him? And you give me, well, he's big. Like, that's what they
said. Big and handsome, basically, is what he said.
That's what they said about Javon Kinlaw, right? Everything was, he's so huge. He's such a big guy. Like, give me something about the way he plays football. Now, they talked about other stuff later on, but John, that's a softball question. You got to be ready to give me something better than that.
Listen, yeah, he sounded like he didn't do a single ounce of work on this man. He just sounded like someone told him to take him. He was like, okay. And he like read his little description on something. And he was like, I'm just going to read what they said. Basically, I don't know.
Astro says John did not scratch his face while saying this. So that's a plus. That's true. He didn't do the, oh God, what are we going to do? I always keep my eye out for that. Now, they said something there that was interesting. They talked about his versatility. He could move inside. He could move outside. They did that a lot at Georgia. A lot of the times he did play inside, and it sounds like the 49ers want to do that. That maybe, especially in year one, they maybe line him up in the middle of the defensive line for some of the rundowns and then put him on the outside in the wide 9 for some of the passing downs. That, I don't know how to feel about that, because if he's good on the outside, then let him be on the outside. Like, make his life easy, right? Let him do one thing. Just focus on one thing, dude. Do this one thing. So I'll be very interested to see how they plan on using him.
And I'm interested to see if they have to limit his snaps like Georgia felt like they had to, right? They didn't want him on the field all the time, or he was playing on a really good defense. So it's just harder to get all the snaps. But do they have to limit him? Is his body ready to take on more snaps? Is he good enough to play on every down? These are all things that you would like to know the answers to for a guy you're taking 11th overall.
Nick Wagner posted this last night. I put it up during the draft as well. Just the examples of all the different places where he was lined up. 30% of his snaps came from the 4-eye. That's over the inside shoulder of the tackle. The 9 technique, which is the wide 9 being all the way outside. He was there 22% of the time. He was at outside linebacker 17% of the time. And then he was down in the 3 technique 6% of the time. They talked to him last night, and he also gave an interesting answer, just talking about where he wants to be and why he's excited to play in the system. Here's Mykel Williams himself.
I feel like because of how well I play on edges, just being in the wide 9 the whole game all the time would allow me to make more plays and would allow me to just be a better player overall and have a better career.
So that's why he's excited to play in the wide 9. But I think maybe he thinks he's going to be out there all the time. And, maybe Lynch and Shanahan and Robert Saleh are going to move him inside more than he thinks he's going to be.
Listen, I don't know. I don't know what else to say about this Mykel Williams pick, honestly, and like how they plan to use him. But I do know that this cannot be their only defensive lineman pick. Like, I don't think this is fixed all that much for them. I don't even know if he's an upgrade to their edge room right now. I mean, obviously adding anybody would be an upgrade, but like how much of an upgrade? And there's still interior defense lineman is suffering massively right now. So they still have a ton of work to do.
Well, it's funny you should mention that, Michelle, because take a listen to John Lynch yesterday talking about that possibility.
Absolutely. Yeah. And we still need more. We got 10 more picks, and he won't be the only D lineman. So, we got to keep going. We've always talked about they're kind of the engine that stirs our defense, and we've got some work to do. We know that, but I think this guy's a great core piece moving forward and a great bookend to Bosa, who also has the versatility, Eric, along with Yetur to kind of play throughout the line. So I think that's kind of exciting, all the different combinations we can have.
They're doing the thing, Michelle. They need defensive line. Lynch just flat out said he ain't going to be the only defensive lineman we pick. At least they understand the problem, right? You can't fix a problem until you acknowledge it, and they're acknowledging it.
Yeah, at least they're acknowledging it. Now, is that what they're going to go for all of their picks on day 2? Like maybe a couple of them, right? Someone brought up in the chat, West Coast offense brought up TJ Sanders and CJ West would be great.
Mm-hmm.
TJ Sanders is definitely a guy that I would love for them to be eyeing in the second round here from South Carolina. I think he'd be a great add for them and would make me feel better, at least, about them adding to the defensive line and for there to be some hope there in the interior defensive line.
So I was just trying to look, and I think I have this up to date. Dane Brugler's top 100. There's still a couple guys in the top 40 that haven't been taken. Trey Amos is still there. He's somebody that I've seen maybe potentially to the Niners. Luther Burden as, a potential Deebo Samuel type of player. And then obviously as you get later in the top 100, there's a lot of guys that are still available, not only on the defensive line, but in other interesting places as well. So it's going to be interesting with the Niners to see what they decide to do day 2, day 3. I thought you would be happier, Michelle. I thought you would be, like maybe you took some time and did some studying. Maybe you went back.
Kenneth Grant went 2 picks later. Come on.
Why didn't you go and watch my interview with Dieter Kurtenbach, who has Mykel Williams as the number 1 player in the entire draft? Better than Travis Hunter, better than Mason Graham.
That's just not something I need to listen to.
Oh, well, you're going to listen to it, Michelle, because just here's a little snippet of what Dieter had to say when he was with me earlier this week.
He wins every time. He just wins every time. Everything he does just looks ready. I know what I know. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But like I see what I'm seeing. This guy's incredible.
He's incredible, Michelle. He wins every time. Get on board.
How does he win every time when his win rate, according to PFF, is 11.9%? 81st among Power 5 players. And again, less than half of the win percentage of Abdul Carter, but he's better than Abdul Carter and he just wins every time. even though his win rate and his pressure rate are very, very mediocre, how does he win every time then?
You know what I say to that?
All I do is win, no matter what. Got money on my mind, I can never get enough.
Come on, Michelle.
They say double teams. X the chef said on YouTube, double teams Michelle. I don't think teams were double teaming Mykel Williams all that often. His team didn't even want him on the field every time. If he was getting double teamed, they'd have him out there all the time because that means he's so good. The teams are game planning against him. I just really don't think that was the case.
'Cause all I do is win. And if you go in here, put your hands in the air, make 'em say that.
That's my argument to that.
He wasn't even the best edge rusher on Georgia. It was Jalon Walker who should have went before him.
I don't know. We'll find out. Again, I think the 49ers plan is, number one, stop the bleeding, stop the run. Like, they were getting killed in the run game last year, every game down the stretch. You know, we always say these teams will reveal what they really think about themselves based on their actions and based on what they do. Clearly, the Niners were like, we got to fix this thing. And obviously, this is one step in a plan to do that. One player does not solve all the issues altogether, but clearly this was an area they wanted to address. They think he's the best at doing this thing right now in the entire draft, and they think he has room to grow. I could at least understand the logic. Now, maybe it doesn't work out. Maybe they're wrong about the player. I don't know. But I see the logic and the thinking there. Whereas last year with Ricky Pearsall, it was like, oh, wow, that really caught me out of left field.
Yeah, I know. I get the logic, and it's better than Shamir Stewart. I mean, if they drafted Shamir Stewart, and if you guys think I'm like annoyed now and not chipper about this pick, oh man, I would have been so mad about that one. So it's better than that. I do think there's hope for him. It's just if this team had viable starters on the defensive line, right? I would be all for this pick. I really would be. But for the fact that they desperately need to find starters, competent starters for next year, week 1. That's what scares me the most about this pick.
Do you think this is more of a need pick than anything else?
I think no. I think they took a luxury pick here.
You think it was a low? I don't think it was a luxury. I think they're desperate for a defensive lineman.
I guess it's a little bit of both, right? Maybe they reached because they felt so desperate for a defensive lineman, but this also feels like a luxury where they're taking a shot on a guy that has really high potential, but is also super, super risky and hasn't shown the production yet. Normally, that's your luxury pick, right? Like, our team is stacked. We have the luxury to take a chance on a guy like this. I just don't think they're in that position.
You know, they loved him. They've obviously, I mean, everybody always says they loved him, but you know they did because, like I said, only one defensive tackle and only one edge player had come off the board. So they had their choice of anybody they could have taken, and they chose him. So, you know, it's not just lip service from the 49ers. The actions match up with the words. I know that people were telling me that Larry Krueger on his stream was crushing the pick. He did not like it. Larry tweeted out something from an anonymous scout, but, you know, I'm trying to present as many different sides as possible here. The anonymous scout said, quote, he's very similar to Jalon Walker, big, tough-ass guy who looks like he should be a monster, but he's not. Reminded me of Boogie Basham. Last came out of Wake Forest and bounced around. A lot of these Georgia guys, they play hard and they play their role, but they don't know how to play. I mean, if that's supposed to be critical of Mykel Williams, Michelle, I'm kind of confused because Jalon Walker's had at least 10 sacks in 2 of the last 3 years. So I would take that right now.
What? Jalon Walker?
Unless, am I confusing him with...
Oh, no, he has had at least 10 sacks over the last years. I didn't realize that.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, so that's the big knock, is that he's going to be compared to this guy. Like, all right, I'll take 20.5 sacks in the last 2 years.
Well, Jalon Walker gets so crapped on because the Jaguars are so stupid to take him over Aiden Hutchinson, right? That's why he gets crapped on. And obviously he has not produced to Aiden Hutchinson's level at all, especially with like pressure rate and all that. Jalon Walker is much more of those guys that needs like 1,000 pressures to get the 10 sacks, but you'll take the 10 sacks.
But if I get that and I get great against the run, yes, please. Like, sign me up for that.
Listen, he can be great, right? It's all about just the risk with where this roster is sitting at right now.
I don't know. I think they look at it as less risky. I think they see him as a very high floor player. And again,
how when he didn't have a high floor at college?
because it's not all about the sacks in their mind. That's what
But
they're
I'm
gonna
telling
tell you.
the pressures aren't there either.
But what about against the run? That's the other side of this.
Well,
That's what
yeah, he could be a good run defender, and they need help with the run. That's great.
if he was Eric Armstead, I would be absolutely thrilled. Which, Eric Armstead, not a Hall of Fame player, not a guy that's, making a bazillion all pro teams and Pro Bowl every year, but a really freaking good player for a really long time. Like, yes, give me another one of those guys. And do you think that's like an unrealistic hope for him?
I think if he doesn't progress as a player, and right now he's only 20, like you brought up, there's plenty of room for him. But if he doesn't get better, then no. But if he continues to grow, then yeah.
I think that I understand wanting to take the potential. And like I said last night too, dude, if you want to rag on a draft pick, of course that's your right. But give me one day. Can I have one day where I can hope and dream that this guy's going to be good? Like, there'll be plenty of time to crap on Mykel Williams if he's not any good. Can I just have one day where we can dream, where everybody can be good? Why not? If we can't be happy today or on draft night, we're never going to be happy.
Yeah, I'm trying to be happy.
You don't sound like you're trying very hard.
I'm trying so hard to be happy.
Would you have preferred Walter Nolen, who went to Arizona, who's going to be in the NFC West? It's weird. A couple of the guys that were rumored to the Niners ended up in the NFC West. Walter Nolen, which now means he's going to be compared to Mykel Williams constantly. And Gray Zabel went to the Seattle Seahawks. It was another guy that people were talking about for the 49ers. So they're going to see some of these guys close up that they, could have taken.
And I'm just going to sit back and I watch Kenneth Grant play for the Dolphins, who the 49ers could have had, and just cry and weep.
Well, it is interesting that they also chose to go edge over defensive tackle. Now, I think maybe part of that is that they think that Mykel Williams can play a little defensive tackle at times, so they didn't feel like they were totally going away from it. But there's still some good defensive tackles on the board, so maybe they thought that was part of it too, that there would be more of those guys left for them on a day like today where they could scoop one up. But yeah, they were both needs. That's the problem. They were both huge gaping needs. So you can't really argue they should have gone one over the other, in my opinion.
No, they're both huge needs. I think I'm fine with them going edge over defensive tackle. And if they liked, Mykel Williams more than Walter Nolen or Kenneth Grant, they did have their choice, right? Of the second best defensive tackler or what they thought was the second best edge rusher. And they went with the second best edge rusher in their mind.
Nick Wagner posted a couple of the defensive tackles that are still on the board. Darius Alexander from Toledo is a guy I've seen a lot of people hoping that the 49ers get.
He will be 25, though, at the start of this year, I think. The start of the season.
Omar Norman Lott. I think the Niners had him in for a 30 visit, if I can remember correctly. Ty Robinson from Nebraska, Vernon Broughton from Texas, Shamar Turner from Texas A&M, a couple other people there at defensive tackle. I know that it's, I said this last night too. Don't judge the whole draft on the one pick, right? They got 10 other picks. So, the draft looks a lot different when you look at one pick and then you zoom out and you take a look at the whole picture. If they can draft, a defensive tackle that can be a solid player, and at least in year one, Mykel Williams can get you some good stout play against the run, all of a sudden your defensive line is looking way better than it did before the draft came in. You still have Bosa, you still have Warner. Maybe you're like, we can at least stabilize things and set our team up in a position to rely on the offense, which is what you and I have been saying that they should be doing. Lean on the offense to make up for the fact that you don't have the defense that you once had. And maybe that's their plan next year.
And they need to add more offensive weapons, right? They need more wide receivers. So we'll be eyeing that. Like, I do think their next pick or two has to still be on the defensive line. But after that, I would like them to add in a couple of wide receivers, because you can't go into next year with Brandon Ayuk on the bench probably for a while, right? In recovery, and just Ricky Pearsall and Jacob Cowing and Juwan Jennings. Like, they need to add another guy. And can I tell you who I would just love for the 49ers to grab in the 4th or 5th round?
Absolutely.
His name is Torrey Horton out of Colorado State. And he'd be going much higher but he dealt with an injury-riddled final college season where he only got to play 5 games. Like, he got an injury in the beginning of the year and then a knee injury to end the season, but it wasn't like a ACL or anything like that, but it did end his year in late November 2024 is when he suffered the knee injury. But he's already healthy. It seems like, I mean, he participated at the combine, ran a 4.41 40-yard dash, recorded a 37.5-inch vertical. So his knee seems fine, right?
And
And
he's
the
6'3".
Yeah, 6'2", 192 pounds. And he's a high volume possession type guy. The 2 years prior to the injury, right? In 2022 and 2023, he had over 1,100 receiving yards in both of those seasons, put up a total of 16 receiving touchdowns during that season. But also from 2022 to 2023, he was averaging 95 receiving yards per game. That was 4th in the FBS during that span among guys to play at least 20 games, behind only Roma Dunze, Marvin Harrison Jr., and Malik Neighbors, who all went top 10 in the draft last year. He made up 37.5% of Colorado State's receiving yards during that span, the highest rate in the FBS during that span. So, like, he can be a great possession receiver. He kind of reminds me of like Amon-Ra St. Brown. And if they could steal him in the 4th round, I do think he could be legit, and I'd be really excited about that.
He got up to 22.5 miles an hour in game, according to Dane Brugler. That is moving, man. I will say that. That is interesting. They need a wide receiver. I think it's pretty clear. I think they want one. They always take one. That is definitely something for me to keep an eye on. So I will write that name down. And I like having things to sort of root for. I'm still hoping they end up with Cam Scatterbo. I get it.
Oh, yeah.
I get it. I'm just hoping that they do. It's fun.
You know what? I'm almost hoping they don't, because I am so excited to see Cam Scatterbo in the NFL, and I don't want him to be stuck behind Christian McCaffrey. So I kind of want him to get an opportunity right away.
Well, my thinking was like, can they take Cam Scatterbo and he can back up McCaffrey this year, and then maybe they get rid of Kyle Juszczyk and they put Scatterbo in as the fullback, because he's not like, I don't know that he's got the speed to be an every down running back in the NFL. I don't know. I like him.
He reminds me so much of James Conner, but with even a more like physical attitude, where he's just gonna piss off the opponent so bad. Like, if he ends up being a Bengal or a Brown or the Ravens, I guess, if they're going to take him, I'm going to hate him so much, right? Because of his personality. But if he's a Steeler, man, you're just going to love that guy, or 49er. Like, if he's your player, you're going to love him. If he's not, you're going to absolutely despise him.
Like Jawan Jennings. Other teams hate him because he's blocking dudes into the Gatorade. The Unfaithful Perspective, thank you for the super chat, says, strange draft after the top 4 were gone. It just became anonymous. Can't say I was either disappointed or excited. I just don't know. That's another part of this, Michelle. You know, a lot of people have talked about the draft being really deep, but not necessarily having the high-end talent that other drafts have had. Is that part of the reason the 49ers took Mykel Williams? Because they're like, hey, this draft doesn't have a lot of those guys. He could be one, maybe. And so we're going to take a swing on that. Again, I don't know. I'm just trying to, piece together what they might have been possibly thinking as they make these picks.
Yeah, I mean, and it's a deep class too, right? So they can add more, and it's not that rare to take multiple guys at one position, and the guy who got taken after is better than the guy that got taken before. Like, this happens a lot with teams. I feel like it always happens with the Packers for some reason, with whatever their positions they take. But it does happen quite often. Even just thinking about, I don't know why this just reminded me of it. When Mark Andrews was selected, the Ravens selected Hayden Hurst before him. It went Hayden Hurst and then Mark Andrews. So like this happens quite often. So I won't be surprised if they go with another edge rusher in the 2nd or 3rd round, and he is competing against Mykel Williams for snaps and maybe even outproduces them early on in their career. Like, if Donovan Ezraku, why can't I say his name?
I don't know.
Hold on. I have it up. Ezraku. I said it right. Ezraku.
You nailed it.
Oh, okay. Man, when I nail it, I still second guess myself. He could be available. He was supposed to go in the 1st round. We'll see how far he keeps falling. But I mean, he had 16.5 sacks for Boston College last year. Another season with 8.5 sacks back in 2022. Yes, sacks are anything, but his win rate and pressure rate were way, way, way higher than Mykel Williams last year as well. So he's a guy to keep an eye on too, because he fell out of the 1st, and I don't think he should have.
You mentioned doubling up on the position. As X the Chef points out, Diamador Lenore and Ambry Thomas were drafted together in the same year. They took Ambry in the 3rd. They took Lenore in the 5th, I believe, if I remember correctly. So the Niners have done that in the past. They're not afraid to do that. They took 2 tight ends. Unfortunately, that didn't work out for them, but they have doubled up on positions in the past. You mentioned the pass rusher you mentioned is 22nd on Dane Brugler's big board. So yeah, to get him in the second round would be pretty sweet. And if they do that, then all of a sudden you're like, all right, you put that guy and Mykel Williams again. It changes the way you feel about it when you get to see the whole bigger picture. I do wonder if maybe could they trade some of these picks for a veteran player. Matt Mayoko talked about how he thinks that they might want to do that. Would the Browns be willing to part with a corner, maybe Newsome? That would be interesting if Cleveland wanted to do that. By the way, I loved what the Browns did yesterday. Trade down with the Jags, go from 2 to 5. You still get Mason Graham, and you get first-round picks in future years. Like, what? I thought Cleveland was super smart.
Oh, no, I didn't. No. They could have got Travis Hunter and instead moved down for a defense tackle. I just think that's silly. Travis Hunter would have gave them covered 2 huge areas of needs for them. They have a big area of need at corner and a huge area of need at wide receiver. And then honestly, what's funny now is they could have got Shedeur Sanders here at the top of the second and paired them together. That could have been interesting because at least would have gave their fan base hope or their team hope, right, for something. But now they just have, Kenneth Grant should be good, really good, but I don't know. I think I was happy as a Steelers fan that the Browns traded down and didn't get Travis Hunter.
Oh, wow. I'm surprised to hear you. Well, first, they could still get Shedeur Sanders because he's still there. So they make still.
Well, Travis Hunter would have scared me way more. I think Travis Hunter was the best player in this class. I think the Titans probably should have just took him too over Cam Ward.
I thought I liked the Cleveland move. They got so much for that pick. I thought it was. And to still get Mason Graham, who I think hopefully will be.
They had to give up the Jaguars were willing to give up that much to move up for a non-quarterback because that's how worthy I feel like Travis Hunter is. Like you got 2 guys basically for 1 pick. So like even though the Jaguars had to give up other picks, it's like, well, we got 2 players out of this basically.
Well, that was why, like, I think it was you who asked me, like, did you ever dream about Travis Hunter? I was like, kind of, because he does play the dual position. Now, for the record, I don't think he's going to be able to play 2 positions full-time in the NFL. I just don't, especially if they go to 18 games in the regular season, which could happen during his career. I don't see it. I think what's going to happen is he's going to be a wide
60,
receiver.
60.
Yeah, I don't even know. I'm skeptical. Look, anytime you say I'm going to do something that really in the modern NFL nobody has ever done, I'm going to be like, no, you're not. And most often I'm going to be correct. I hope it works out for them. I said this about the Jags last night. They're interesting, at least, right? They haven't been interesting in so many years. Now, I do want to see, can Travis Hunter play both ways? How good is he as a wide receiver? Does he help Trevor Lawrence? Like, there's a little juice there in Jacksonville.
Oh, yeah. I think this was great by the Jaguars. And if Trevor Lawrence can't get it done throwing to Brian Thomas Jr. and Travis Hunter, then they know, right, that they messed up with the contract. But there is still a lot of good guys on this board. Like we've been talking about Mike Green. Mike Green's a top 10 pick if it wasn't for his background, right? Now we don't know how bad his background is. We know he was allegedly, the sexual assault. We don't have all the information that these teams most likely have. But Mike Green's still out there. Mike Green would be instantly the better edge rusher than Mykel Williams, in my opinion. But if they feel comfortable taking him, he's an option. Will Johnson is supposed to, he was getting mocked to the 49ers at number 11 a ton. And he's getting dropped because of concern with the knee. But that concern didn't come until right now. I don't know. After the combine, nobody was concerned. So that's confusing to me. I think Will Johnson's a steal to get in the second round. Trey Amos, like you mentioned, I just brought up Donovan Ezeraku. There's definitely still a lot of really enticing players that were supposed to go in the first round that are sitting there. Now, what if the 49ers were to take Shedeur Sanders if he keeps falling?
I think Peter Schrager mentioned that. I want to say, and I apologize if I got that wrong, but somebody asked, hey, what would be one of the crazy things that could happen? And he said, Shedeur Sanders, if he's there for the Niners, outside of round 1, he mentioned it. I don't want Shedeur Sanders. I want no part of Shedeur Sanders because I don't want any part of Deion Sanders. And you can't get one without the other. Okay. I'm sorry. That is not a good look. He's way too involved. He's a pain in the ass. No, thank you. Plus, you've got Brock Purdy. What do I need Shador Sanders for? I have Brock Purdy. They're supposedly on the verge of paying Brock Purdy. Like, no, I don't want, not especially Michelle, when you have so many other needs, right?
No,
You want
I'm with you. Like, they do have too many needs for it. I mean, it would be a nice safety option if Brock Purdy were to hurt his elbow again or arm again, and really nice backup. And then if Purdy's just contract doesn't come through, you have that safety option. But they do have just way too many needs to be taking him in the second round.
Yeah, no, I don't want it. There's too many other positions of value. I don't want the circus. All right. I want to get back to Kyle Shanahan talked about at the owners' meetings how it's just going to be, getting back to basics, buckled down, learning the craft. We've had enough circuses in San Francisco. We had the Trey Lance, Jimmy Garoppolo circus. We had the circus with Nick Bosa's holdout and Trent Williams holdout and Brandon Ayuk's holdout. I want the circus to fold up tent and get the hell out of town, and we can get back to focusing on football. And you don't do that if Shador is in your locker room.
I do think it's being overblown a little bit, but I say it's being overblown, and all 32 teams passed on him, right? So is it being overblown? Clearly, because I do think he has it in him to be a good NFL quarterback. Like, he's a very accurate passer. He is not worried about being under pressure. He was under pressure all the time at Colorado. He is a very clutch player too. Like, I think he has the traits to be actually a really solid quarterback. I wanted the Steelers to take him at 21. It seems so after all of his meetings with the teams. Clearly, he's not vibing with coaches and GMs. Like, clearly he comes off a bad way. Probably Deion Sanders doesn't help either, having his, head and mouth and everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I do think he can be good, but the further he falls in the draft, the less likely he's going to have the opportunity to show Casey can be.
Can you imagine, like, Brock Purdy plays, he throws a pick. Oh, Deion's tweeting something, Deion makes a comment on Twitter. Then players are getting asked about it. Shanahan's getting asked about, like, no, hard pass. No, don't want it. Your Steelers had him there. Everyone was thinking about you. We had people in the chat asking during the live draft, like, oh my God, are the Steelers going to take Shador? Does Michelle want Shador Sanders? Ultimately, they decided not to. They took Derek Harmon, the defensive tackle from Oregon, who I have heard only good things about, to be honest with you. And it seemed like such a Steelers pick to me, right? Give me, upon this rock, I will build my church. Like, boom, he's the middle of our defense now.
Yeah, it's a very Steelers pick where their goal is to be 9-8 or 10-7.
You are just unhappy no matter who gets picked.
It's a fine pick. He's going to be a good player. Is it going to change anything about the Steelers' outcome of their season? No, it's really just not, right? And right now, their starting quarterback is Mason Rudolph. So sorry, I'm not excited about taking a defensive tackle.
Tyler Shuck, come on down, maybe for you.
Sure.
Jesus M says, he's calling me out, and he's right, because I said I don't want the circus in town, but I also do very much want the 49ers on Hard Knocks, which is a circus. So, yeah, I'm a walking contradiction. What can I say? Because I want the information about my team. I fully acknowledge it would probably be a pain in the ass for them and a distraction, but I still want it.
I want it just to see everything, but it is a distraction for the team, and it normally is never good for their season. So I want it. I guess that's being selfish, because it would just be fun to get to see that. I would love, when you brought up, because I was like, I don't know if I want them to be on Hard Knocks, and then you brought up we get to see Kyle Shanahan and how he operates in team meetings and with his his coaches and colleagues, and then also his players. I would love to see that.
Yep, I think it would be, and because he would hate it. Also, that is the other part of it. That's, I feel like, makes it more interesting. With Rex Ryan, he loved it. Now, granted, that was still awesome to watch too, but he loved it. So that it changes what the show would actually be like. But if Kyle hated it, we would get to see. I also noticed a lot, Michelle. I don't know if you noticed this. They gave Robert Saleh a ton of love last night. Immediately after the pick was made, Jed York tweeted, Robert Saleh's back in the building, #trenches. And I'm like, wait, what? We're talking about our defensive coordinator? Like, it just seemed really weird to me that was the guy that got a lot of credit for the pick. I think Robert Saleh, if there's any trouble, Robert Saleh is clearly the coach in waiting for the Niners.
And I'm wondering if they've been worried about making Robert Saleh mad over the last couple of months with getting rid of so many defensive players and not filling the positions at all, that they're like kind of trying to suck up to him right now.
Or just trying to convince him to stay for more than 1 year. There's the Jed York tweet if you're watching on the stream. Saleh is back in the building, ladies and gentlemen. #trenches. It was right after the pick was made. And generally, like, I don't want my owner tweeting, period. Jed York, you're a billionaire. Get the hell off Twitter. We don't need to hear from you. All you have to do is sign checks. That's your only job. But of course, he couldn't resist because anytime the 49ers have a bad year, in swoops Jed York to try and fix things. And usually he only makes them worse.
And that's what he's doing right now. That's for sure. He seems like he's making it much worse this offseason, but maybe he'll shock us.
He will. Just spoiler alert. He will not. All right. So day 2 of the draft coming up. The Niners have 10 picks. Do you think the Niners are going to make all 10? Obviously not today, but throughout the rest of the draft. Or do you think that they are going to, because of this draft being deep in this round, maybe use some of those later round picks to get multiple, maybe another 3rd round pick or another 4th round pick, something like that?
I think maybe they should use some of those to move up today. If one of these guys that we brought up that should have gone in the 1st round keeps falling a little bit, they get to the 9th, 10th, 11th, or well, I guess they're 11th. If they get to the 7th, 8th, 9th pick, in the 2nd round, and these guys are still out there, move up a couple spots. You're not going to have to give up much. You have so many picks, and go get a guy that it was supposed to be a 1st round pick, and all of a sudden you're feeling really good about this draft.
And I hope that they do. You don't need the 3 7th round picks. 2 5th round pick, although they have been incredibly good in the 5th round, but move up, take advantage, and we'll see ultimately what the 49ers decide to do. Thank you to everybody who joined last night. Thousands of you that were watching us. It was an unbelievable response. Everybody that joined, the hosts, everybody was into the pool. It was a fantastic thing. We're going to be live again tonight, probably around 4:30 Pacific time. I believe the draft starts at 4. We'll hop in at 4:30 unless Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch move up, in which case, bam, we'll jump in live and break all that down. But we will be live again tonight, so I hope you join us for that as well. It's going to be a lot of fun. I didn't say it on the air, and I should have, but we're all sitting here saying, can the 49ers get back? Are they going to be good? Are they going to go in the tank again? That all depends on what happens today and tomorrow. That is how it. When teams get good, it's because they draft well. When they suck, it's because their drafts suck. It's because of what happens tonight. So people don't pay as much attention beyond round 1, and they should.
I mean, absolutely. This is where it becomes most important, right? You're supposed to hit your 1st round pick, especially when you're 11th overall and you're that high. You're supposed to be able to at least hit on. It doesn't mean you're going to hit on an elite guy, but someone that can produce and be productive on your team. It's these picks right here that can be the difference for your team that a lot of teams are missing on. And if you can be the ones that hit on it, that's the difference. You stole basically another starter that you weren't supposed to have. If you hit on a guy in the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th round, that's something that a lot of teams aren't doing. And that gives you the advantage.
They've done it before. They've had good drafts before. There is no reason they can't do it again. And all of a sudden you accelerate maybe a rebuilding plan you thought would take a certain amount of time. And then it's well, actually, turns out it might take a little less because we got 3, 4, 5 good players in the draft. We will see how it all works out. Michelle, thank you so much for joining me. Thank you, everybody, for watching, for your likes, for your subscribe. We got a couple of new YouTube channel members last night, too. That was always fun. Always appreciate that. Good luck to your Steelers. Not too much good luck, but I just want somebody to make one pick that makes you happy tonight.
Yeah, I mean, the Steelers only have 1 pick tonight, so.
As of right now. You never know, right?
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
They traded their 2nd rounder for DK Metcalf, which I was happy about.
Right, that's true. And that you have to sort of factor him in as part of the draft class because of that. And that's not nothing, to be sure. All right, Michelle, what do you got going on? You're going to be working tonight again?
I'm working.
No big social plans. No Frisbee golf tonight.
No, I do have tomorrow off, so we'll see how much of the draft I'll be watching.
Oh, okay. All right, everybody. Thanks. Enjoy the rest of the draft, and we'll talk to you later tonight.
Bye, y'all.